One of the coldest takes in the Resident Evil franchise is that tank controls are bad, but I think they're actually what makes the game work. What exactly are tank controls? Think of a remote control car. You're looking at it and you're controlling it, but your POV is just that. Not over the car's shoulder and following it along. Resident Evil 1 has essentially decoupled the camera from the controls, just like an RC car. When you see Chris or Jill on your screen, you might move forward, but forward is whatever direction they are facing, not just up. While pressing left or pressing right turns them in place, not actually moving them in that direction. So, no matter the camera angle, pressing up would always make the character move the way they're facing. You aren't a floating camera following the subject as it moves. Even Mikami himself chose it because it made the game scarier. Because the game has pre-rendered backgrounds, the cameras don't move. It can only cut. That's why we have the tank controls. If you move forward and it went away from the camera, you would be constantly going in and out of the same door every time the angle cuts. Forward belongs to the character, be it Chris or Jill, so the controls never actually change meaning. This, added on top of the pre-rendered backgrounds, gave the game a certain visual nothing in 2002 could match. Though not the first game to do it, inspired by the likes of Alone in the Dark 1, 2, and 3, other games that came after also have similar, such as Silent Hill or Dino Crisis. Resident Evil did it best. The camera was the reason for the atmosphere of the mansion. Born from a technological constraint, sure, but what became of it was art. This is cinematography. In many of the modern Resident Evil games and remakes, you get to choose what you see. Mostly. You can peek around a corner and see if there's something waiting for you there, but with the fixed camera of the Resident Evil 1 remake, the game decides what it wants to show you, and when. One of the most distinctive shots in the game is something that is almost never used anymore. The camera facing you as you walk away, meaning you can't see what you're actually moving into. To reinforce that, the game gives you off-screen horror. You're moving through a hallway. You turn a corner. It looks clear, but now you hear something. A groan? A shuffle? Whatever it is something untoward. The fixed camera also gives us angles that really emphasize the scale of the mansion, of how big it is, and how many horrors are inside. Low shots making the mansion's halls tower over you, and high shots making it look like you're being watched. You just can't have this type of atmosphere without the tank controls, especially when you're trying to get away. The camera angle changes, and you instinctively readjust your analog stick, which you didn't need to, and suddenly, you're accidentally running right back into the zombie you were trying to avoid, which happened more than I care to admit. Now that's the real horror. Though the over-the-shoulder camera is still great, you do get to look wherever you want. No hidden secrets, but the camera stops being able to lie to you. Bye-bye movie magic. The other remakes are just as good, but they're different kinds of horror. The remakes make you feel like you're competent, and then it threatens it. You might be good, but then Mr. X is still stalking you, so you gotta do what you're doing and do it fast. While Resident Evil 1 gives you the opposite. It gives you incompetence, and the game forces you to survive it. But let's face it, Resident Evil 2, 4, and 3 are just as good. Their upgraded animations, the zombies, the gore, the smooth gameplay with beautiful visuals that are scary in their own right. The Resident Evil 2 remake didn't just become the best-selling Resident Evil game for nothing. And the Resident Evil 4 remake is almost universally critically acclaimed. And most recently, while not a remake, Requiem uses the same RE engine as the remakes. The gameplay? Amazing. Swinging Leon's hatchet at the dead is satisfying to say the least. The animations give it that much extra, which the Resident Evil 1 remake was never going to do, because it never needed to. Even Resident Evil 7 showed us that Resident Evil can still be terrifying with completely different controls too, and a first-person camera. The game's atmosphere might have actually come entirely from the fixed cameras, meaning the tank controls were the price that we paid for them. Some people argue that we could absolutely keep the cinematography while having a smooth analog movement instead of the tank controls, while still getting the same dread. Though the remake did have a new feature, the 180-degree quick turn, because Capcom knew that some of the friction could just be annoying. At the same time, Capcom went a step further with the HD remaster. They gave players the option to keep the cameras but lose the tank controls, with a fix that preserved your movement direction through a camera cut. Except, they never explained it, so players still overcorrected and spun in circles anyway. Which tells you something. They built the best of both worlds version, and had to hide a workaround inside to make it function. The cameras and the controls don't separate as cleanly as people think. What the tank controls bring, though, to Resident Evil 1's remake, is that there has to be a cost. A cost to retreating, a cost to making a decision that might turn you down a hall even though you might hear a zombie, but not see it. Because if it was just the flick of a stick to get away, free of charge, the game would have to find other ways to manufacture that tension. This is where that tension lies. Whereas other games have to scare you slightly differently. Mr. X opening doors to get at you, an unkillable entity. And I don't know about you, but I struggled big time to find any amount of ammo in Resident Evil 2's remake. That's a great way to build tension into a horror game. Resident Evil 1 Remake just did it differently. And to be honest, the sad part of it is we might never see something like it again in our franchise. And it's not because Capcom is lazy and not because they don't want to, but modern AAA horror games set an expectations to the players that it's going to be controlled in a way that might be easier to get a grasp on. Lesser learning curve means the game is likely to retain the player. The new RE engine they use is what players know them for. And what a great engine it is. Having spent hundreds of hours with them myself, I love both sides of the coin. But it's a shame because I personally love the vibe that Resident Evil 1 Remake gives. I wish I could replay it again for the first time to experience that feeling. The jank, the horror of turning corners and not knowing what's there. Getting myself killed on accident because I hadn't fully gotten comfortable with the controls yet. In a way, the jank made the game that much more terrifying.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. By the time of this recording, I am pretty sick, but that's not going to stop me from asking you to like and subscribe. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more of this kind of content and you want to support me, go ahead and click those buttons. And of course, thank you for watching.